What's up, you guys? My name is Danny. Welcome back to another video, and welcome back to me having a crush on Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence dominated the acting game back in the early 2010s, and I think it's safe to say it was due to her success as Katniss Everdeen in the Hunger Games trilogy, and also her role in Silver Linings Playbook. But there was also one slightly problematic, slightly strange teen thriller movie that she was in that not only blew my mind, but was an obsession as a kid. An obsession. I think it's safe to say that we all had that one slightly problematic teen drama or thriller movie that we would romanticize beyond belief as a kid. These are movies that seem to be pulled from the plot of a horrifyingly inappropriate One Direction fan fiction, and also had the same energy as a Lifetime or investigation discovery film. For me though, this problematic movie was Jennifer Lawrence's 2012 House at the End of the Street. Do you remember that one? I used to love this movie so much as a kid. I would show it at sleepovers. It was kind of like my party trick. House at the End of the Street came out in September of 2012, though it was in production during 2009 and 2010. I guess they were in post-production for 2 years because they were trying to find a way to make this movie interesting through the editing. Now, this movie didn't only star Jennifer Lawrence, it starred one Max Thoroit. If that name sounds familiar, then you are not alone in watching A&E shows as well, because Max Thoroit plays Norman Bates' brother in Bates Motel, starring Freddie Highmore. Yes, this Freddie Highmore, and this Freddie Highmore, and any other Freddie Highmore that you can possibly think of. Anyways, back to House at the End of the Street. Jesus Christ, that's an absurdly long title for no reason at all. I honestly can't place why I was obsessed with this movie so much as a kid. I think it's trauma-induced. I feel like that's the easiest way to put it. Like, why was I so attached to this movie? Especially upon this rewatch, why was I so attached to this movie? I'm really disappointed in 12-year-old me. And honestly, I'm not the only one who thinks it's a bad movie now. I mean, the movie was not well received at all upon its release. It had a 5.5 on IMDb, and I think it was coming in at like a 10, 12% on Rotten Tomatoes. And not that those platforms determine what a good movie is in 2024, but I think it's important because at the time of its release, those were the ways that you would find out whether a movie was good and worth watching. All I remember before my rewatch for this video was that Jennifer Lawrence is the daughter to a single mother, and she somehow gets in with like the strange kid, like that's his title, and kidnapping ensues. Yes, kidnapping. But let's get into the movie itself and talk about why this did not age well. I think my biggest problem with House at the End of the Street is that it tries so hard to be something it is not. This movie is like if Lifetime TV took the opportunity to try and do an edgy, like Teen Nick style film. When it tries to play itself as a way stronger horror in not only its trailer, but in its full feature-length presentation. It's annoying. I personally don't think that Jennifer Lawrence is a compelling actor in this movie, and that's not because of her. That is actually because of her character. It's solely because of her character. They took every single possible trope you could fit into this movie and honestly gave it 1%, not even 100%. Alyssa just isn't a strong character, and neither is Ryan Jacobson. And I think that this movie could have worked so much better had they both been strong characters and not just attractive two-dimensional paper dolls. And that goes for every single character in this movie. There is not an interesting character in this movie. And no one is acting like they should be for their character. which is beyond frustrating because you're waiting for an intensity to pop up on screen that never does. There's so much I used to be scared of as a kid when it came to this movie, and I think it was because, you know, the sweet boy next door is way creepier than he actually is. But rewatching the movie as a 23-year-old, the boy next door is creepy from the get-go. There isn't really any twist. You know from the get-go that this guy is a freak and that he should not be trusted. And they kind of play it off in this way where Jennifer Lawrence is too naive and too sweet to understand that something could be wrong with him. This movie is also inherently deeply problematic with its somewhat justification of Ryan Jacobson's kidnappings. The whole twist of this movie is that Ryan Jacobson was his sister all along, and the sister died of brain damage when she got into a swing accident. And so the end of the movie, like, I think it's the title sequence, shows Ryan Jacobson as his sister, and he keeps being like, my name is Ryan, and his mom is like, no, you're not Ryan. I personally can't wrap my head around the subtext they were going for in this, whether they were trying to make it seem like Ryan and Alyssa have a lack of identity or a lack of security as their main flaws, but the motivation for Ryan just doesn't seem strong enough when it comes to kidnapping Alyssa and turning Alyssa into the next Marianne. I think one thing that would have made the movie stronger, even though it's not a good movie, is that Ryan's point of view and inner monologue for, you know, kidnapping Alyssa could have been so much stronger. That could have been strengthened so much. I even think that, you know, putting the movie in the perspective of Ryan instead of making Alyssa the protagonist could have been a very strong move, you know, for a predatory teen flick, but that's besides the point. The narrative being pushed in this film is inherently flawed and goes against everything that we should be supporting. I think these types of teen movies coming out in the early 2010s about, you know, creepy guys next door, but they're like super sexy and sultry, is so strange. Point blank period. It's an absurd topic to conquer so poorly in film. I am personally not a fan of these types of movies. I think when I was a troubled, unsupervised internet kid, the concept of this sweet guy turning into this like crazy, you know, deranged kidnapper, like serial killer, was enticing because of what was getting shoved down our throats on apps like Tumblr and We Heart It and Twitter. I don't think these are things to make films about in such a poor manner like this. It feels so heavily romanticized and glorified, even if Jennifer Lawrence gets out in the end. The way it's painted out to be is like, no, but you have to understand, like, Ryan is a really traumatized guy and he can do this because he is extremely traumatized. And that's what feels so wrong about it.
And look, I guess you can say, yes, Ryan was broken and mentally this took him to a place of desperation. But the kidnapping always seemed unwarranted and the strangest part of this film. The concept of keeping a girl down in the basement that looks like your sister, who might have been romantically interested in you at one point, it's not appropriate even for his traumatic existence. Especially because we don't really find out that Ryan was Marianne until the very end of the movie. And the fact that this big glaring problem of his life pretty much goes untouched 99% of the film, it's hard to find empathy or sympathy for him or pretty much any character in the film because of how one-dimensional they are.
Also, the house isn't even at the end of the street. Like, the Jacobson house is not at the end of the street, neither is hers. So what house are they talking about that is at the end of the fucking street? What house explain that to me. Do I have any favorite parts of this movie? No. In conclusion, I am bewildered that, you know, a very young Danny was able to enjoy this movie and get behind it so heavily, because I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed. But it's also been over a decade since this movie has come out, so my brain has developed. And I think that's a very important distinction in rewatching this movie. You know, I think the last time I saw this movie was 2014 or 2013. And I definitely understand now why this movie has such deeply problematic and flawed themes. I want y'all to drop below what movies y'all were obsessed with as a kid that you grew up to realize were problematic in nature and that you shouldn't have been obsessed with as a kid, because I think it's so interesting how our tastes develop, and once we understand what's right and what's wrong and develop our own moral compass, our favorite things do change. Thank you guys so much for watching this small video. This was my attempt at using Audition and my HyperX mic again. I really hope y'all enjoyed it. I'm trying to find a good place in my apartment to shoot because literally nothing works. I feel like nothing works for my apartment. I have such a weird space and I don't have any permanent space set up, but I think I'm gonna film for here right now. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to click that like button and subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time. Goodbye.